Hi, my name is Pat O'Connor, and this is the second video in my national mortgage exam tutorials and practice quizzes. Today we're going to be talking about the Equal Credit Protection Act, but before we start, let me do a couple of housekeeping things. First of all, if you would prefer to have a printed study guide, I do have a well-regarded study guide available on Amazon. It is updated every year. The link's here. It's also in the description of the video. Has over 800 reviews and 4.5, 4.6 rating as I'm recording this. The second thing is that at the end of this video, if you watch all the way through, there will be a link on the screen. It's not clickable and it is case sensitive for you to download a practice quiz. All right, these practice quizzes are copyrighted. But stay to the end and you can write down the URL to download the practice quiz. Also, at the very end, there will be a link, one or two links to additional videos in this series. Okay, and I do ask that if you enjoy these and you think you've learned something, that you subscribe. There is a subscribe button in the bottom right of the screen. There's a subscribe button on my channel. There is a link to subscribe in the description area. And I will be offering specials just to my subscribers upon request. As a video creator, I can see the names of my subscribers. So don't be anonymous. You know, I need to see your name. And then if you email me, hey, I want to take advantage of such and such a special, then you'll be able to take advantage of that. Maybe extra questions, maybe a free Kindle study guide, something along those lines. Okay, so if you like them, subscribe. All right, ECOA. ECOA was enacted in 1974, and it's implemented as Regulation B. We're going to be covering multiple laws in this federal law section of the national exam. And last week we had RESPA, and that is Regulation X. And I advise the students they can remember that by thinking of REXPA. Okay, so that may help them think Regulation X. So here for ECOA, ECOA. B falls between C and A. Okay, so that may help you remember that it's Regulation B. Now, fair housing does for residential real estate purchase and rentals what ECOA does for lender discrimination, but ECOA adds prohibitions for the elderly as well as for women. Okay, that is not explicitly laid out in the fair housing laws. So let's get into the protections for ECOA. It is race, color, religion, national origin, sex. This includes sexual orientation as well as gender identification. Marital status. On the application, there are only 3 blocks to check for the marital status. And it is married, unmarried, and separated. There is no block for single, widowed, or divorced. They're all going to fall under the unmarried category. Age. As long as the applicant is of legal age to sign contracts. There is no age discrimination, and we'll talk about that more in a couple of minutes. Receipt of public assistance funds, if they were previously a Section 8 tenant You can't use that as a basis for discrimination. States may have temporary cash assistance to families that are lower income. And, maybe they pulled themselves up. Maybe they won the lottery. You can't discriminate based on receipt of public assistance. And the last thing is exercising any rights under something called the Consumer Credit Protection Act. And that act actually encompasses a lot of the regulations that we're going to be talking about down the road. So if someone feels that they were discriminated against in the past and sued their lender, sued their loan originator, sued somebody, you can't discriminate based on that. Okay? Okay, mortgage loan originator. Now, you may be sitting in front of someone as they fill out the application, or they tell you the answers and you're filling them out. But one of the blocks, one of the things that is used for monitoring, it goes into a publicly available database, and we'll talk about that down the road. It's another law, is to track discrimination by lenders based on like race or national origin. Okay? A lot of people don't want to answer that question for whatever reason. If they don't, or if you're on the telephone with them taking an application, you have to check the box. And the law says, well, you can base it on visual inspection, or you can do it on a surname. And then you could check national origin. Okay, so that's that. That's not a really pleasant thing, but that box has to be filled out. Okay, prohibited factors, things that you can't do. You don't have to disclose any information about your spouse if you're applying as an individual. In the past, women, it's like, well, what does your husband do? Okay. Sorry. So none of that, unless the income that you are reporting and that you need to qualify depends on child support or alimony. Then the questions can come in about that. Or you're in a community property state. Then follow-up questions can happen. So talk to your manager to get some more clarification about that. No questions, and this is, more for women. Women come in, maybe they have one child. You can't pretend to have casual conversation. Oh, how many children do you intend to have? Are you using birth control? The more children you have, the bigger your debt. Can't do that. Okay, so no questions about future child plans or birth control. Don't evaluate an elderly person differently than you would a 40-year-old. The law defines elderly as 62 and older. So suppose a 75-year-old person comes in and they want a 30-year fixed mortgage. You can't sit there laughing at them and saying, well, you're probably not going to live to be, 100. They want a 30-year mortgage and they qualify. You give them a 30-year mortgage. Their age doesn't matter. All right? If they're 62 or older, no discrimination against age, as long as they are of legal age in your state to sign a contract. Then they can sign the contract, and they can get 18-year-old if that's the legal age in your state, and they qualify based on everything else. They can get the same loan as your 40-year-old. Okay. Again, this is geared more towards women. A qualified applicant applying on their own doesn't have to have a co-signer. So you have your 18-year-old supermodel. He or she doesn't need the co-signer if they're applying on their own. If it's a woman, they don't need their husband to sign. Okay? They're applying on their own. They don't need the co-signer. Don't ask minority applicants to provide more documentation. We will see in later videos that you usually need a 2-year work history, right? They want, work references for the past 2 years. You look at somebody and say, okay, you don't look like me. Or, all right, I need your 10-year work history. So you can't do that kind of stuff. Don't steer minority applicants into different programs than you would non-minority applicants. Equal, Credit Opportunity Act. Everybody's equal. Don't treat men and women differently, all right? We've already talked a little bit about this. And don't request, we already covered that. Okay. So acceptable factors that can be taken into consideration is your immigration status. Are you a permanent resident? Do you have a green card? Are you a Canadian coming to a U.S. bank to get a loan for your house here? All of that, you can ask questions regarding that. And I know that I recently have, I'm a real estate broker, and I was screening tenants for a rental property and came up with a lot of fake Social Security numbers. We get a lot of immigrants, like Haitians, come in, and if they land on dry land, they can stay. But then they can buy a Social Security number on a street corner in Miami. However, when you do a credit check, it comes up as, nope. So yeah, you're gonna see some of that kind of thing depending on what part of the country you live in. So a part-time income, annuity, pension money, any kind of retirement funds you can take into account. Again, we'll see later in the series, part-time income documented may have had to occur for the past 2 years. Additional conditions are okay, but just the fact that it's part-time, you can't exclude it. So adverse action notice, what happens when the lender denies a loan, and why do they deny a loan? Well, could be fake Social Security number right up there. Debt to income ratios, you were going to talk about that in the math section. Too little income to satisfactorily cover their debt and still have enough money left over to make their mortgage payments. Maybe they just graduated from college or just graduated from high school and they don't have the work history. From my understanding is, well, if you're an intern and you just came out of medical school, you might not need your 2-year work history because you have a bright future ahead. So they may make some exceptions depending on the profession that the individual is in. So adverse action notice, there can be some multiple reasons why. But the adverse action notice itself has to include the action taken. Okay, we denied your loan, or maybe we need more information. Name and address of the creditor. They will cut and paste the section of ECOA that talks about adverse action notices and the rights of the applicants. Name and address of the federal agency that administers the compliance, and a statement of the specific reasons why the loan was denied. And the lender has 30 days to send out this notice. Okay? The adverse action notice. If they fail to include the statement of reasons why the loan was denied, the applicant has 60 days to request the reasons why. And then the lender has 30 days to respond with the statement of reasons. So think 30, 60, 30. The more generous time frame is for the applicant. Lender has 30 days to send out the adverse action notice. Borrower has 60 days to ask why. Hey, if it wasn't included in the original notice, hey, 60 days later, tell me why. And then the lender has 30 days to send them the reasons why. If the lender makes a counteroffer and the applicant hasn't responded within 90 days, then they have the right to send out the adverse action notice based on the non-response of the applicant. Okay, so know all these dates. Again, if the adverse action notice will include the name, address, and telephone number of the person to contact for the statement of reasons, if it's not included in the original adverse action notice. Okay, so right above here, you will have the link to download the practice quiz. It is not clickable, but right after that link appears, there will be a link to one or more videos in this series. Once again, I ask you to please hit the subscribe button if you enjoyed this and you don't want to miss any more. And I will see you next week, and we will be talking about the Truth in Lending Act. Thank you. Bye.